Okay, people are coming on. Hey, Mindy. Okay. Just a few more minutes before we officially get started. Okay, so we have Tamara, Sue, Gail, Tammy, George, Pat, Mindy. More people signing on. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Let me make something fun. Okay, so we're about to start in 1 minute. Who's ready for an amazing online seminar to learn 7 steps for invincible health? If you're ready, go ahead and say yes in the chat box so I could see that everything's working on your end. Oh, 1 second. Okay, everybody, and we're about to start. Ronnie, you ready?
Yep.
So let me make I have the honor to make this introduction to you all. So we're all gathered here for an epic and amazing online seminar from a raw foods and peak performance nutrition expert who has delivered over 200 live seminars. Everybody give me the pleasure of warmly welcoming Ronnie Landis to come and just share some amazing stuff with us this afternoon.
Right on, Adam. Thank you so much. And aloha, everyone. Ronnie Landis here. And I'm really excited to share with you guys a recap on last week's 7 Steps to Invincible Health. And the purpose of today's webinar is that I want to do a revisit of all those principles that we went over because, in my personal opinion, those are the 7 primary principles that you can use to outline the infrastructure or the interior decorating of your lifestyle that's in development. We're all developing ourselves. We're developing our food habits, our relationship with food again, right? A lot of us have grown up disconnected from our relationship with food. Therefore, it has caused a lot of relationship disturbances when it comes to how we're relating with food choices. How do we make better choices? How do we upgrade our food habits step by step in the flow of what's going on in our life? And I found that if you can create an outline to your life, then it helps to fill in the colors, right? We all had the color books. And one thing that was really great about those color books is that they had an outline. They had a sketch of some kind of figure or a building or an animal or something that we wanted to color with our crayons. And it really helped to have that outline there. We could fill in the gaps seamlessly in the flow. And that's ultimately what we want to do with our lifestyle, is create an outline. And that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today. It's not going to be a full 45-minute or hour-long presentation. My hope is that within about 20 to maybe 30 minutes, if we just like really get into it, we cover all these principles, and then I open it up to all of you for your questions. I want to be able to accommodate your live questions right here on the air. And then we have some bonuses that we want to share with you guys to help jumpstart your lifestyle, to increase your education, and just to really make your experience on this planet and your health journey much more entertaining, fun, and effective all the way through. So one thing I want to share with everyone before we jump into this is that I'm on day 6, I think, no, at day 5 or day 6. I'm not even really keeping track, but I'm on one of those on a certain cleanse and detox I'm doing. It's a little unconventional, even for like raw food standards. It incorporates a lot of juicing, a lot of liquid fasting, a lot of water, and then also emotional and psychological resetting and detoxing. And it was a form of neuromuscular release therapy that actually started me to do this, to actually break down all the hardened tissue that we all use as armor to navigate through the rigors of life and to protect ourselves. And I had all that stuff just kind of broken down in my body, and it released a lot of emotions and a lot of thought patterns. And so I've been doing a specific cleanse to kind of help facilitate that process. And this webinar is not about that, of course, but I want to share with you guys that I've been kind of coming on the other side of being in and out of consciousness, so to speak, in terms of my ability to focus, my ability to even be on a computer. I think today is like the first day that I'm really able to like fully integrate, and my brain is firing so much quicker than it had been before. So anyways, all that is meant to just say that no matter where you are in your life, no matter where you are in your health journey, you can activate genius right now. Just because you don't get immediate results from something, just because it doesn't just show up right there on your doorstep, the thing that you were calling in, you were inviting in, doesn't mean that it's not right around the corner. It just means that you have to be a little more patient. And that's what this is all about, is exercising patience in our life for the prosperity that we're inviting in, right? Okay. Let's move on here. So the 7 steps of Invincible Health start with principle number 1, which is making a concrete decision. Making a decision in your life that you are enough, that you are the kind of person that deserves vitality, vigorous health, luminosity. Literally, when you walk into a room, you are the person that shines a light, and everyone else can't help but pay attention to. Right? Whatever that story is for yourself, you have to make a decision that you are someone that deserves to be uncontrollably healthy and vibrant every single day of your life, starting now. Right? Not starting tomorrow, not starting 10 days from now, not starting a year from now, but right here and now, you are that person, and you assume the role for the position that you are playing, right? That's really kind of the metaphysics and the philosophy of this idea of making a decision in your life. Most people, they fail not because they didn't hit the mark and not because they didn't get what they wanted. Oftentimes we get what we want and we realize that it wasn't really that what we wanted. It was because we weren't totally clear. We weren't totally being honest with ourselves about what it is that we were going after. And that happens a lot in the health world. But anyways, ultimately it comes down to making a decision. The first thing, it comes down to just deciding what it is that you want right now. So for some people, it may be, I want to lose 10 pounds. I want to lose 30, 40, 50 pounds, 100 pounds, whatever it is. And the common denominator for everything I've seen when it comes to reversing degenerative conditions, when it comes to losing weight, when it comes to transforming our lives, is that every single person I've ever seen really make that shift and really have long-lasting results is that every single day they had to make a decision that they were going to reinvent themselves, that they were going to keep moving forward. A lot of times we set a goal and we stay with it for a week or 2 weeks, but so there's some kind of tolerance point where we give up and just give into our old behaviors. And every single day you have to set up rituals in your life that remind you why you started on this journey and that you need to keep going in order to reap the benefits of why you started, right? If you quit, you will never receive the benefits. But if you decide right now in the moment, and then also in the next moment, that you're going to keep going, if it's to be, it's up to me, I am responsible, and I am going to move forward. That is absolutely critical. So principle number 2 is going from survivor to thriver on a plant-based diet. So what I want to share briefly on this is that moving forward in our world, it is pretty obvious to most of us, at least most of us that have been into vegetarian and vegan diets and raw food diets and the different adjustments of natural-based diets that are available, it becomes very apparent to us that plant-based is really the only option we have moving forward. And when I say plant-based, that doesn't necessarily mean plant only. I want to make that distinction because you have these extreme promotions or propagandish promotions from both the Paleolithic kind of diet idea, right? Eating like our caveman ancestors, and then vegan extremists where there is no animal products, there's no mention of animals. In fact, we don't even want to talk about it. Don't bring that subject up. And there's two extremes. And for me personally, I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of both of those sides. When we get into extremes, we get into yes and no. We get into ego, essentially, and we're divisioning into the idea for our diet. We minimize the options that are available for our healing. And some of those options may actually be on the other side of our comfort zone. And if we open up our mind and we open up our heart and we feel our body, what is our body telling us, then we'll be able to identify some of those novel ingredients that we can just fit into the template of our current lifestyle. And that may be the most important thing that we can do moving forward in terms of nutrition. When it comes to plant-based meaning a diet that's based around plants, right? So probably 80 to 90% of your diet should look like raw plant material. 70 to 80% for most people, something like that should be raw plant material. So that could look like green leafy vegetables, seeded fruits, right? Non-genetically modified seeded fruits as minimized in hybridization or fruits that have been bred out to have more sugar and to be more aesthetically appealing, but low minerals, low concentration of nutrients, and a lot of times low water content, which is what you find in the grocery store really is excessively hybridized fruit that is not viable. It doesn't have a seed in it, so it can't reproduce itself in a natural environment. It requires the intervention of humans. Basically, we set up fences, we throw in pesticides, insecticides, all kinds of chemical fertilizers to fight off all the bugs, because those fruits that have been hybridized, they don't have the virility to actually ward off pathogens and environmental organisms because they're high in sugar. So those organisms are going after those fruits to gobble up all the sugar. So that's one important thing, is that we get the right kind of fruit for us. And moving on from there, nuts, seeds, seaweeds, flowers, edible flowers, sprouts, superfoods, tonic herbs, that kind of thing. That's what we could all base an outline. That's the outline idea. We can create an outline of our diet with those options. And then moving outside of that, I do think that it's important for most people to derive some sort of information from the animal kingdom. I'm going to go out there and say it. I'm going to go out on a limb right now as a very active and well-known raw vegetarian, so to speak. Probably about 95% raw food most of the time. And I am a vegetarian, but I do source some of my nutritional information from the animal kingdom. I don't eat meat, and I don't advocate eating meat actually at this point. Usually I'm pretty open to people's ideas about this, but I have to say, moving forward ecologically, environmentally, and health-wise too, and the quality of meat, and the fact that I don't want any killing on my hands. I don't want karmic repercussions. I got enough karma to deal with, okay? I'm not looking to build up any more. So for me, vegetarianism, as the Hindus have done in the Vedic healing culture for 5,000 years, they found that they could cut through that karmic barrier without having to kill an animal like their sacred cow, but they derived information or nutrition from them through the alchemized byproduct of that cow's metabolism. Essentially, that cow eats grass that was being grown at the springtime, a certain time of the year where it's more active in vitamin K2, which Dr. Weston Price, the famous dentist, termed activator X, right? That was the vitamin K2 is that nutrient that builds our bone structure, that actually allows the blood platelets in our blood chemistry to kind of open up and allow vitamin K, or to allow calcium to actually form in our bone structure. Our osteo material in our bones is built mostly out of calcium. So we actually need bioavailable calcium, not calcium supplements, though. That's not what I'm talking about. We need bioavailable calcium from green leafy vegetables. And then certain nutrients like vitamin D and vitamin K2 that actually help unlock the keys to assimilating calcium properly. That's a really important key. So for that consideration, I think ghee butter is really powerful. I mean, I've seen so many vegans over the years that are not all with it. Let's just say it like that. I mean, for me, for a while, I wasn't with it. I was not with the program of like thriving. I was on the idea that I'm just going to survive on plant material, and I don't need anything from the animal world. In fact, I don't even need to interact with animals. I'm just going to do my little plant thing. And I realized for me that wasn't totally appropriate, and I needed to actually be more humble and more open-minded to the options available on the menu board of the universe. And what the universe was trying to share with me was like, hey, look, you can do your plant-based thing. You can do that, but there's certain things that you can add in periodically, not all the time, but periodically, that are actually going to supplement certain aspects of my physiology that, because of stress, are being wiped away constantly. A lot of people don't even realize that we have so much stress, metabolic stress, psychological and emotional, not to mention physical catabolic stress that we're undergoing every single day. And what stress does is it uses up certain nutrients like magnesium, like selenium, like zinc, certain very important endocrine supporting and nervous system supporting nutrients. All your B vitamins, including B12, are being utilized and wiped away when you have excessive amounts of stress going on in your life experience. And then also cholesterol. Cholesterol is another one. Under ideal circumstances, one of the vegan arguments to this whole cholesterol thing is that your cells produce all the cholesterol you need in order to produce healthy hormones. And that is actually true. Your cells do produce all the cholesterol you would tend to need in an ideal circumstance. The only dilemma with that is we don't live in an ideal circumstance. We live in a very chaotic, electromagnetically chaotic, pollution-orientated chaos, and then just workaholism and driving in cars and buses and being on computers and all this has created such a catabolic effect on the body, is that our cholesterol is being used up so fast that if we go on a low-fat diet, depending on your metabolism, but for most people, if you go on a low-fat diet for a certain amount of time, you will become more irritable. You will become less neurologically able to operate properly. And that's another thing I've seen in the vegan world, in the raw vegan world, especially with a lot of these YouTube personalities. I mean, we might as well just call a spade at this point, right? A lot of people out there promoting their messages and doing it with such a fierceness and such a I'm right and you're wrong in your faceness about it. I notice some commonalities. There's some stuff up here that's not functioning. The light bulb is going out. And when that light bulb in our brain, our cognition starts to run out, our cholesterol reserves start to burn out, our nervous system goes into a sympathetic overload, meaning that we're hyper stressed, we're not balanced, we're not regulated. What ends up happening is people will stop using logic and stop actually having like legitimate conversation skills, and they'll resort into irritability. They'll resort into survival, which is like arguments, like, you know, you're wrong and I'm right, and you know, that whole thing. That's something I would love for everyone to actually just consider when you're following the advice of this guru and that guru. Pay attention to their mannerisms. Pay attention to their level of being with it. Are they all with it? Or is there a screw loose? Is there something going on with them that's like, whoa, dude, I don't know about all that. I don't know where all that's coming from, because clearly what I'm looking at is not a completely balanced human being. And so I'm going to jump off that rant boat right now. That was that's a tangent of mine. That is a rant of mine that I could go on indefinitely. But anyways, it does speak to the point of what we're talking about, is that in order to thrive on a plant-based diet long-term, it's my observation that we need to adjust and organize our lifestyle in a way that is not conventionally, or how should I say, it's not based on someone else's theory for you. It's based on your own experimentation and exploration, and ultimately your own integration of what appears to work at any given time in your life, and spreading your food habits over a diversity of plant-based options. Ultimately, having a vegan diet is ideal most of the time. And then there's going to be that time where having a vegetarian diet is really ideal. And then for certain people, you may find that you need to add in grass-fed, pastured eggs from the farmer's market that have not been refrigerated, that don't have bacterial fermentation and that kind of thing on it. You know, just one kind of high-quality eggs. And then every blue moon, you might feel like you want non-Pacific source salmon, for example. You know, to each their own on that end. But really, we want to migrate away from tissue material. Ultimately, muscle tissue material, meat and fish ideally, although fish to me is still a far better option than all meat products, all terrestrial meat products, if you will. So that's my kind of scoop on creating a thriving plant-based lifestyle versus just basically surviving. I hope that lands pretty well for all of you. Okay, and then principle number 3 is just an add-on to that, superfoods. One of the ways I've been able to really hold down a vigorous state in my body and my mind and my health, and be on a plant-focused lifestyle, high raw plant-focused lifestyle, is through the inclusion of superfoods. Now, if you were on the call last week, we went into a whole cascade of some of the top superfoods in the world. I'll just bullet point them really quickly for you. We're talking about the microalgae, the cyanobacteria, which is the spirulina. We're talking about chlorella. We're talking about blue-green algae. We're talking about marine phytoplankton. Those 4 foods are some of the most powerful and nutritionally dense foods in existence, in pure existence right now, in terms of protein, in terms of a diversity of minerals, major minerals, trace minerals, and potentially ormus minerals, unknown minerals. Ormus is an alchemical mineral extract, if you will. It's an acronym for ormus, or orbitally rearranged monoatomic elements. And I'm not gonna say any more about ormus because I'm gonna go on a whole thing about it. And it's really what ormus really is there is a mineral. It's an extraction, the result of an extraction method using sea salt, dead sea salt, using different methodologies to pull out unknown minerals that don't fit into Mendelev's periodic table of the elements. And they have unique effects on our whole physiology and psychology. Anyways, moving on. Then after that is coconut products. So coconut water, coconut meat, coconut oil. I would love for everyone right now to Google or to write down coconut oil versus Alzheimer's. Google it, check it out, see what that's all about. One of the most important foods in our world right now is coconut oil. In fact, I'll go on record again about saying that coconut oil, in my opinion, is the #1 weight loss food that you can just add in right away. There's a number of reasons for that. It helps your body learn how to burn fat as metabolic fuel, as energy, opposed to your body storing fat as a survival and hibernation method, which is what most people are in. Most people, because of the stress, because of the food they're eating, is causing their body to go into a survival state, like a famine state, where they're eating all these calories, but there's no nutrition in the food. So the body is literally starving for nutrition by excess of calories, if that idea makes sense to you. So coconut oil is one of those things that kind of like that turns your metabolism back into what it should be doing, which is a fat burning state. And that's one of the best ways to modulate and hopefully lose weight long term, and do it the healthy way, right? Beyond that, we have foods like goji berry. We have foods like mulberries. All the berries, in my opinion, fit into that category. And then you have foods like cacao, which is the seed of a fruit, which all the chocolate in the world comes from, as most people watching this, I'm sure, know about. And then many other things as well. Aloe vera. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention aloe vera before I move on. The great Egyptian plant that was revered in Egypt as a spiritual sacrament, as a spiritual protection ornament, and then also for its therapeutic effects, both topically and eternally. And speaking of ormus, there is a high concentration of ormus elements apparently that are concentrated in the gel of aloe vera. And with aloe vera, you basically just slice the leaves like filleting a fish, slice the leaves, and then put the gel into your smoothie. That's the best way to get it in. Now, what are superfoods really? What is the point of superfoods? Superfoods ultimately are food-based nutraceuticals. They're food-based supplements. Most of the supplements on the market are so junky. They're so full of chemical solvents and chemical fillers and preservatives, and they're junky. They're delivering junk into your body, basically, and can cause your body to go into an imbalance because you're hyper concentrated and isolating nutrient into your body. That can cause your metabolism to not quite be able to adjust, or it can throw the signals off. So that's why we always go towards food, because food has, like cacao, for example, is the highest source of magnesium, right? So cacao beans act as a magnesium supplement, but it's not a magnesium supplement because it has all the cofactors that are in that food that make the magnesium work better. Hopefully that makes sense. Is that actually, that appears to be the case, is that when you take a supplement, not necessarily a magnesium supplement, but some supplements, it can cause the body to be thrown out into an imbalanced state. So you want to go to food first, and that's why we use superfoods as our natural supplement. Okay, let's all take a deep breath here. Everyone, let's breathe together. Yay. This is amazing that we have this kind of technology and we can bridge the communication gap here together. So moving on now, let's talk about principle number 4, which is quarterly detoxification. So I want to quicken this explanation by just simply saying that every quarter of the year, you should be focusing on some form of cleansing, some form of metabolic reset, resetting our digestion, resetting our hormone system, resetting our nervous system, and just lightening the load, right? So that could look like a green juice cleanse, a 5 to 7 day green juice fast. One of the most amazing experiences you can ever have. That might be doing colonics. That might be just like, okay, it's time for my quarterly series of colonics. I recommend doing no less than 3 colonics, and then you can go up to 6 colonics if you really want to up the storage tank, empty the storage tank, I should say, which is your colon, really. And that's a huge subject. Colon cleansing is absolutely critical for your health, your family's health, everyone's health. I mean, the stuff that comes out of people is absolutely incredible, and not just physical stuff, but a lot of the emotional, spiritual stuff somehow gets embedded into the body. It gets embedded to our muscular tissues, and then it somehow gets stuck somewhere. It gets stuck in some kind of holding pattern. And I've seen people that have gotten colonics, and they have been in like theology, they have been in different religions, they have been Catholic their whole life, staunch Catholics, you know those people, and they have never had a religious experience. They've never caught the Holy Ghost. They've never had like that inspired like revelation. As soon as they get a colonic, it's like, whoa, they start to channel some life force energy, and they start to turn on the triggers, and they all of a sudden have a new spiritual experience. It's absolutely incredible what I've seen on that front. So I definitely advise doing some kind of quarterly detoxification. It's actually a good time to point this out here. This is my book, The Life Food Peak Performance System. And this is a book that I had worked on for about 5 years. And in this book, there is an entire chapter dedicated to detoxification and some of the most powerful methodologies and easy to apply methods in your own home of effective, super advanced, but super simplified detoxification protocols that you can just apply right here and right now. So I really recommend that you guys check that book out. And actually, Adam, do we have an offer for that book? I don't know if we set something up for that. Okay, great. So Adam's going to pop up a link for you guys to check out more information on that. So that's principle number 4 is effective or quarterly, the power of quarterly detoxification. Now, before we move on to number 5, I want to put out a success tip for you guys. If you have one of these, this is basically your journal or your notepad. I call this the cosmic sketchpad of your own universe. This is something that you basically write down your ideas, you write down your goals, the story that you're illustrating for your life. You take notes on this webinar and write down things that make sense to you that you can take action on. This kind of thing. Really important to have that around you. Okay, let's move on here. Number 5, how to have a powerful, invincible immune system. So like I mentioned in greater detail on our last webinar, your immune system is absolutely everything. The future of nutrition and health is going to be immunological momentum, creating a momentum within your immunology that wards you off from any possibility of being sick ever again. I mean, people that have the common cold, that whole thing, what that indicates to me is that they don't even have an immune system at that point. Their immune system is like in the negative, which is amazing that we're all still alive, right? So you shouldn't ever be getting a common cold or anything like that. In my opinion, in my experience of being on this lifestyle for 7 years, it's really proven to me that a lot of our theories based on living in a city, on health, and they're maintenance ideas to help us live better in a city, but they don't really explain what our natural blueprint really is, what's possible for the human being outside of the confines of conventional thinking. So your immune system pretty much governs every single workforce. It governs every single protective mechanism in your body. And the two ways that we build up our immune system are through what's called our innate immune system and our adaptive immune system. Your innate immune system is your frontline defense system that you inherited upon birth from your mother, and also the breast milk that you were hopefully fed when you were born. This is another area about that whole piece I talked about when it comes to finding certain options from the animal world that actually make sense for you. And another one of those is colostrum. Colostrum is the in-between milk of a pregnant cow, right? Pregnant cow. So that milk, that in-between milk that you get when you're a baby is really important for empowering your white blood cells, basically. A simple way to say that, your immune cells. And it basically educates your immune cells on how to work more efficiently, how to work better. And there's certain growth factors that are present in that milk that fortify your immune system, fortify your hormone system and your nervous system. Now, a lot of people didn't get that growing up. That's why colostrum, for many other reasons too, colostrum has a lot of other benefits as well. But if that works for you, if you don't have some kind of dairy allergy to colostrum specifically, it doesn't have the same like casein protein that cow's milk does. Remember, it's the before milking of the baby, or of the mother and cow. And so anyways, the point of that is just to look into that if you did not receive your mother's breast milk. But beyond that, how do you power your innate immune system? Ultimately, it's by probiotics. It's by beneficial bacteria is the main way that you're empowering your frontline defense system. And 80% of your immune system is actually produced and fortified through your digestive system, through your probiotic bacteria. And if someone has a dysbiosis, which is the clinical term for an imbalance of friendly bacteria, then their immune system is going to be hitting an onslaught that it cannot ward off. All the organisms, the pathogens that are present in your inner ecosystem are not going to be able to, or going to breach through the firewall of your digestion and are going to basically break down your immune system over time. So probiotics are critical for that. And on top of that, this is another opportunity to share with you one of our promotions, which is a company that I work with personally. I'm a brand ambassador and educator for this company, BioOptimizers, and they have two flagship products that I use religiously. And I recommend to all my clients, everyone I talk to, these are the two things that I'm like, you need to get on this immediately. And those are systemic or metabolic enzymes and also proteolytic probiotics, protein-specific probiotics. And right here I have a bottle of the enzymes. If you guys can see that, there should be an offer popping up for you guys with a link where you can go to find more information and actually purchase these. But these enzymes right here are high dosages of proteolytic enzymes, 3 different different protein specific or protein splitting enzymes and cultured enzymes that are the more expensive forms of enzymes to be produced or to be manufactured in the industry. Most enzymes that you find are dominant in an enzyme called amylase. And amylase is the carbohydrate enzyme that we produce in our saliva when we look at food or we're chewing food. It's amylase that gets secreted in our mouth when we're chewing food. We don't get a lot of proteolytic enzymes in most enzyme supplements, and proteolytic enzymes are actually what we need more than anything because we have an excess of undigestible protein in our body. When I had the neuromuscular release therapy, I had a lot of deposits, obviously calcium deposits and stuff like that, stagnant tissue, but also protein deposits built up in my body that just hadn't been broken down over time. And that's another reason I am absolutely fanatical about enzyme supplementation in our day and age, but the right enzymes that actually work. So check out the link for that. And then the other product is the probiotics. My favorite probiotic by far. It's a different kind of probiotic than is typically offered on the market. It's a much stronger one. So you wouldn't actually do as much of it as you would with some of these other probiotics out there, like the acidophilus and the bifidus and some of the other strains of probiotics, which are great, by the way. I think they're amazing. But this is just a much different one, a much more potent one, especially for protein metabolism and protein digestion. So you guys can check more out about that. All right, let's wow, that's a lot coming through me right now, guys. So I'm just trying to stay a clear channel here. The next thing is how to transform your stress. So we already talked about stress management, or we really didn't talk about that. But in the last call, we talked a lot about the effects of stress, how it breaks our body down, how it breaks our life down, the whole deal. And most people already know this. And I mentioned a little bit about the sympathetic overload that most people endure every single day. And that's basically our fight or flight response. That's a cortisol response or an adrenaline response that our adrenal glands produce. And that actually leads to adrenal fatigue if it's not adapted properly. Where's I go? I had another thought come to me about this. I use the word adaptogen, right? The reason we're not able to adapt to stress is because we don't have adaptogens in our body. And that's the second part of your immune system, by the way. The adaptive immune system is your immune system's ability to adapt to new circumstances when the innate immune system is not able to hold up the ship. There's the second tier that pops up, and that's done through medicinal mushrooms. That's done through tonic herbs. That's done through things like aloe vera, like goji berry, that have polysaccharide sugars that inform our immune system on how to work better. Things like ginseng, specifically like American ginseng, which is a little more cooling for most people. Things like astragalus, things like Hoshu Wu, Chinese tonic herbs like euphomia, things that Schizandra berry, by the way. Schizandra is probably the most powerful of all those. Reishi mushroom being at that top tier list as well. These herbs are very, very specific for empowering our immune system and helping us adapt to the catabolic onslaught. Catabolic means physical breakdown. The catabolic onslaught of stress that's going on in the world, and how stress actually shuts down our immune system. That's an interesting process, by the way, of how that happens. Of when we're in a sympathetic overload, our body basically goes into a state of fight or flight, as if we were running away from an animal or we were, in a survival mode. Basically, all the functions of the body get distributed towards adrenaline secretion, cortisol secretion, fight or flight, and all the blood flow that would go to your digestion gets redistributed to your tissues and to move, to run, to think, so we lose our effect, we lose digestive power, and all the energy that would go to your immune system gets redistributed to other areas because your body's like, look, we don't need an immune system right now. That's long term. We need to survive right now. So if we're constantly in that state, what happens is our immune system and our digestive system shut down persistently, right? It's okay once in a while if we really do have a life or death situation, but to do it every single day, all day long, and unconsciously is what is causing so much of the breakdowns in society. So all these herbs that I've mentioned are very, very important for that process. Now, people ask me all the time, where do you get Chinese herbs? Where are the Chinese herbs that you recommend that you use? And they're from a company called Jing Herbs. That's my favorite company. I'm actually also brand ambassadors, funny enough, with them as well. We've had a relationship over the years, and we've done some work together and this kind of thing. So there should be another offer popping up, and the link to that website is lifefoodherbs.com. That's my personal brand ambassador website to their website, and on that website you'll find specific videos I've done on a number of herbs, and you can look around and purchase any herbs that resonate with you that I've mentioned. That is the company that I recommend for that. And so the stress thing is like, you just got to realize again that your life is blessed. Our life is blessed to even be here in the first place. So if we can channel more enthusiasm, more love vibrations, more vibrancy, and more enjoyment and entertainment in life, and have more of an enchanted reality, then we're going to be healthier by default. That's going to eliminate so much of it. Then our journey into diet and lifestyle becomes more enjoyable instead of like, oh God, I got to do this because I need to heal, and this is the only way for me to heal, and to have this whole story around it, right? So I find that is a really great way to just kind of navigate the waters of diet and make it fun. You got to make this fun on yourself. It is so much fun to be as healthy as humanly possible. All right, so we're almost there. Principle number 7 is simply integration. So now that we've gone through all that information, what we need to do now is just integrate it. How do we do that? Well, it's simple. It's just adding one thing in at a time. It's not complicated. It's not this whole thing. It's not this whole story. It's really just adding one thing in at a time that makes sense to you, that sounds like fun, that excites you, that you're inspired to go out and get that new herb or that superfood, or a basket of fresh fruits and vegetables, or upgrade your water. Whatever that thing is for you, take action. Make a decision right here in this moment that you are going to act. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it is you making a purchase on one of the promotions that we're sharing with you. If it's simply sharing this information with someone else, it's upgrading something in your lifestyle. I don't care what it is. I want it to be something that excites you, though, and ultimately causes you to take action. And I also want to commend every single person that's on this call for being on this call, because you guys obviously get it. You guys are obviously part of that like cream of the crop of the human race at this point that actually understands the value in taking action and making the investment into yourself to be on a call like this. You could be doing anything at this moment, but you chose here to be with us, and I acknowledge you and I appreciate you for that. And for that reason, for that specific reason, I'm going to share another offer that I really wanted to make available to everyone, but I only wanted to do it through this private call, is that my Holistic Health Mastery Nutrition Certification course is going through some upgrades right now. Some of you are students in it. Some of you may know about it. It's holistichealthmastery.com. Now, I have an inner circle offer that's going on right now, and it's going on until July 25th. And the price of the program is going to go from $800 to $1,500 after the 25th. Now, the Inner Circle promotion is the ability to get into the whole program, get the whole program, the 70 video curriculum, plus 40 bonus videos, plus conference calls, student support and conference calls with me and just the students in the course. And many other upgrades that we have coming up. You're going to get everything for about, I think the price on the Inner Circle website is $600. It's a one-time payment. And then you also get the Life Food Peak Performance System with that. And that offer should pop up, but just in case, it's holistichealthmastery.com/inner, the word inner, INNER, _circle/. Now on that website, there's an unbelievably chunked down price for this course. Now that's actually publicly available. Because you joined us on this call, what I'm going to do only for you guys on the call is that if you decide that this course is for me, I want to do this, and you do the one-time payment, what I'm going to go ahead and do is once you purchase that, I'm going to send you $100 back as a special gift. So essentially, the course is only going to be $500 as a one-time payment. Between now and the next couple days. Contact me personally or contact Adam to get like a definitive answer on that. But to be completely transparent with you, I'm making this up on the spot. I didn't necessarily have to make that offer, but it's in my heart to do these kind of things on the spot and to provide more value to people that make the investment in themselves and make the investment in me by showing up. I want to make it easier for you to enhance your life. That's why I'm doing that. So again, if you decide to do the one-time payment, you will receive a copy of my signed book and also get $100 sent right back to your PayPal account within minutes of making that purchase. So that's just a little incentive for you guys. Okay, so Adam, how are we doing with questions? Do we have any questions from anyone?
Yes, we do. Let's take a look right here. We have a question in here from Sue, and she wants to know, how do I get enough protein daily to sustain heavy physical activity? I am told I need 1 gram of protein per 1 pound of body weight.
Right. Hold on, Larry. Yeah. Hi, Sue. The reason I'm laughing about that is because that is like the word on the street when it comes to like protein, is that we need 1 pound of protein per like 0.8 a pound of body weight that we have. It's like, once you really do the numbers on what that actually means, and the epidemic of kidney disease that we have 100% due to the excess of animal protein, undigestible animal protein, it's like, whoa, wait a minute. We can see why we got into this epidemic in the first place, in diabetes and cancer and all that. But that whole idea about we need this much protein, to me, is based on potentially the influence of meat and dairy industry on our education system in the food pyramid. But really it has to do with our inability to absorb protein from the sources that protein is actually present in. I want to make this, I want to drive this point. I'm so glad you brought this question up. I got to drive this point. When you look at the analytic numbers on how much protein is actually in a piece of meat, it is shockingly low. Shockingly low. And it's random, by the way. It's not precise at all. There's no precision going on in factory farming or slaughterhouses on, like, you know, where are we carving out this piece of muscle in an animal, and there's no sophistication. And when you do the numbers, you find out that there might be like 1 to 1.7% protein by weight in an animal, in a piece of chicken, for example. It's like, wait a minute. So what's this whole thing on protein? Meat is not a good source of protein. It's actually a better source of fat and cholesterol. That's really what's going on with animal tissue, is that it's a better source of fat, essentially. Not the best source. It's a contaminated source of fat, but it has nothing to do with protein, in my opinion. Animals get their protein from plants. Now, most of us have heard this, but the reality is that when you look at protein, there's primary protein and then there's secondary protein. Primary protein for all herbaceous animals, herbivores, and omnivores with that extent, is that they all get their protein from plants. That's the fact. And then that protein alchemizes or metabolizes into their body and becomes tissue. It becomes whatever that protein needs to be. The same thing with us, Sue. It's the same exact thing. I mean, we are mammals, right? We're humans and we have brains and we can think up all kinds of theories and stuff. We're different than animals because we can freely think. But we are still, terrestrial mammals, essentially. So the same thing applies to us. Now, to answer your question, how do you do this? What needs to be understood about transitioning into a plant-based diet is that there's an acclimation point. There's an adjustment point that our metabolism has to go through in order to acclimate entirely over to plant-based foods. This is an insight that was delivered to me by my friend Wade Lightheart, who is actually the founder of BioOptimizers. And he used enzyme supplements as a main way to do that, actually. Enzyme and probiotic supplements. And what he explained to me is that when you first transition into plant-based diet, especially if you're used to needing a lot of protein, he's a bodybuilder, so he needed a lot of protein, he would double up on his plant-based protein. So hemp protein, for example, is probably the most bioavailable and the best source of plant-based protein in the world. And it has the most absorbable form of protein called edestin, which is very similar to our blood chemistry and helps to inform our immune system as well. And then there's spirulina. Spirulina has the most protein of any food by far that's ever been discovered, right? It's about 60 to 70% protein by dry matter weight that's absorbable right like that. So what I'd recommend to Sue is that what you do is you start taking every morning a glass of water, you put in 1 to 2 tablespoons of spirulina into your water as your breakfast or your breaking fast. In fact, if you want to take that a step further, here's what I recommend to you and anyone else that wants to really jumpstart their metabolic, process, their whole deal. Do this. Now, I swear this is not a shameless product plug, but it just seems to be convenient. These 3 bottles. I'm showing you this because I'm walking my talk. I do this. I have 3 more bottles. I order these bottles 6 at a time, depending on where you are financially. I recommend doing a 90-day supply of them because you want to give yourself 90 days to really reset your digestion and your whole enzyme processing machinery. And what this is going to allow you to do is going to help assist the assimilation of protein and adjust to more of a plant-based protein. So you're absorbing more protein than you ever did before. That's number 1. Now, in combination with doing that, I would recommend doing about 10 to 20 capsules of enzymes every single day or every other day, whatever that feels good for you, at least 10 on an empty stomach every morning, in combination with 1 glass of coconut water with a tablespoon or 2 tablespoons of spirulina in your water. And if you're in one of those quarterly phases of detoxification, switch out the spirulina for chlorella. You're still going to get all that great protein, but you're going to get more cleansing components from the chlorella, and you just do it that way. That's a really great way to go about it. But doubling up on your plant-based protein until the point comes where it's like you feel it. You're going to feel it. It's not going to be intellectual. It's not going to be like, oh, well, this person said I need this much protein. You're going to feel it at some point in your body where you're like, whoa, like I'm totally satiated. My blood sugar is completely balanced. My brain is fully fired. I'm not brain fogged out or cloudy thinking. You're going to feel it in your body where you're like, okay, I don't need anyone else's opinion. I know what's actually working for me by my experience. So hopefully that answers that question and gives you a little more insights on how to approach that.
Yes, so we got another question here from Anne, and Anne wants to know, what's the number one thing a woman over 70 can do to have great energy?
Oh, hey, Anne. Whoa. So there's a few things that come up for me on that one. When we look at I'm gonna say something, but don't take this literally. We look at the elderly population. I don't use that word. I don't like that word. I only because of its connotation. Like we try to division the human race based on society and like, okay, this is the youth, this is the middle class, this is the elderly. And then it creates these paradigms or these programs around like age-related diseases, which has nothing to do with your age. It only has to do with a program that you're running and accepting that this is your time in life to have cancer, to have osteoporosis or arthritic conditions. So the first thing is like, just making sure that your headspace is really good where you're like, I'm not buying into that program, but also knowing that with the progression of the aging process, we are subject to physical breakdowns, right? So one of the things that women specifically, actually, once they get up in those older years, you've done more dances around the sun, the main concerns are usually cardiovascular, usually heart concerns, and hormone concerns. And the hormone concerns are usually towards lack of energy and also neurological. Like there's this whole fear mission right now against Alzheimer's and dementia. And you can easily combat that. You can easily reverse that and easily, well, I don't want to say easily reverse. Let me rephrase that because that's not necessarily appropriate. Nothing I'm saying is going to cure anything. That's not my admission that you're going to actually cure anything, but it's easily preventable for sure. And there's a lot of ways that you can deal with that. All right, let me focus in on what I think is really critical here. Bioidentical progesterone. That's really the thing I want to say. Bioidentical progesterone. Also for Sue, Sue, I know Sue, if it's the Sue I'm thinking about, bioidentical progesterone, really important for women 40 and above, especially in those older years, especially if you've had children, especially if we're exposed to environmental toxicity, which we all are. Yam-based progesterone cream is so powerful. The research behind this is so evident, and the experience that I've had or been shared by other women, even men that have done it, to transform progesterone into testosterone is really interesting. Now I could go on and on about the whole hormone thing, but I invite you to do your own research and to look up bioidentical or yam-based progesterone cream. Never, ever, ever do synthetic hormone replacement therapy. Never, ever, ever do that. That is absolutely empirical. The evidence is out. Nobody should be doing that. Now, when it comes to bioidenticals, different story, because you're taking a natural substance, a plant-based substance essentially, and you're using that to help boost your body's natural production of androgen hormones or youthening hormones. But when you take a synthetic, which is a chemicalized version, or you take the urine of a female horse, and then you put that into your body, That, first of all, that's disgusting. Okay, I don't think that doesn't really make any sense on any level. I'd much sooner drink my own urine, like UT therapy. That's a whole different story. But synthetic hormone replacement therapy is a scary thing, and the results are never pleasant. So the number one thing I recommend is bioidentical progesterone. Now, beyond that, I recommend, because for osteoporotic reasons, progesterone is critical for osteoporosis, for your bones. One thing that's been shown about people, especially women, when they reach their elderly years, is that they suffer a greater degree of hip fractures. Now, it's been shown that women that actually break their hip, they don't actually fall and then break their hip. It's been shown that they break the hip and then they fall because their body can't hold the weight, obviously. That is so critical. So mineralization is really important there. And having one superfood smoothie every single day and one green smoothie or green vegetable juice every single day, in my opinion, is the absolute best way to start that process of remineralizing your bone structure, so you get all the minerals you need and you start to get off all calcium supplements. I have to drive that point too, because the reason that we have all these arthritic and osteoporotic conditions and demineralization, osteoporosis is a mineral deficiency, basically mineral density deficiency in the bones, and the bones become hollow and then they become feeble and they break, right? Calcium supplementation is one of the biggest culprits of what's called calcification, where we have a crustacean buildup in our bones and our joints, and it starts to break us down from the inside out. And we start to go from like up, you know, when we're a baby, we're hydrated and we're up and we're open. And as we age, we gravitationally get suppressed and we break down and fall forward until we meet our final day under the sun. So those are some important things to be looking at. And then I have to drive this point again. Enzyme supplementation is critical for that. Enzyme supplementation is so important. I'm gonna hold off on explaining that any further because A, I need to get some water for my voice, and B, we've talked a lot about that. I don't want to overload anyone with too much information, but again, enzyme supplementation is at the top of that list, in my opinion. So let me recap on this for you, Am. Yam-based progesterone cream, enzyme supplementation, and then also making sure that you're not taking any calcium supplements. You get rid of that immediately. And then also superfood smoothies, one superfood smoothie and one green drink every single day with green superfood powders is the best way to really empower yourself moving forward. Okay? Where's that? I'm going to grab some water while I listen to the next question.
Yes. Next question is coming here from Sharon. He's asking how to thrive on a vegan plant-based diet for chronic fatigue syndrome.
Man, that's a good one too. There's a lot that shows up for me too, especially because I'm working on my new book, The Inner Alchemy Youthening Program, and this is going to be the pre-sale for this is actually going to be released on June 31st, I think. But anyways, I was just working on a section yesterday on how to master your metabolism. That comes down to understanding the macronutrients, your protein, fat, and carbohydrate ratios in which you need to thrive. Everyone's different. This is why the whole high fat, low fat, high protein, whatever diets out there, one size fits all, are completely ridiculous at this point. I have to just say it like that. At this point, I don't even want to be nice about it anymore because it's doing so much damage to people actually that it's ridiculous. And this one size fits all thing is such an unsophisticated an immature approach to nutrition, and most of us have been inundated with that our whole lives. So what ends up happening with people, especially on a vegan diet, is that you have trouble producing adrenal energy, adrenaline and cortisol. Now, cortisol is not a bad thing, by the way. You need cortisol to actually like function and be mobile. It's just when you produce cortisol all day long and you produce it at night, it's going to throw your system off. It's going to throw your hormone system off. So you want it in your early day, naturally, non-caffeinated if possible. Now, to answer your question, what happens is I would assume, Cher, that you're a fast oxidizer. What a fast oxidizer is your metabolism is geared probably towards more fat and oils as your primary source of fuel, opposed to like carbohydrates, opposed to grains, opposed to complex carbs, and opposed to rice, and opposed to fruit and that kind of thing. Not that those foods don't work for you, but they can be imbalanced. And what happens for a lot of people that are fast oxidizers or have a fast metabolism is that they burn through those too quickly, and they cause a sugar sensitivity for a lot of people. Actually, like high sugar in fruit, certain fruits can cause that sugar imbalance and can cause people to be thrown off their dosha, so to speak, thrown off their body type. So you probably do better under a lot of fat as your primary source of fuel. I would recommend that you look into Dr. Gabriel Cousens, his whole thing on raw vegan diets, because he's the one who educated me on this concept of fast and slow and sub-oxidation rates, and how each person needs to be in that right ratio of fat to protein to carbohydrate to actually produce enough energy. And one of the ways that you can test that is in the morning. The first thing you do as what am I thinking here? As like food or to break a fast is do a hot herbal tonic with coconut oil, like 1 to 2 tablespoons of coconut oil, and see how long your body coasts on that. Because ultimately, we don't want to be eating all day just to produce energy. In fact, when we eat too much, we subtract energy from our body. So we need to know that, right? And so if you're experiencing adrenal fatigue, it's probably because your adrenals have to work too hard, and your thyroid has to work too hard to produce T4 to T3 conversion for energy, and then that feeds into your adrenal glands. And so you're going to have both a thyroid imbalance and an adrenal fatigue because your food ratios may not be appropriate. So that's something I would really recommend you investigate. And again, check out Dr. Gabriel Cousens' work. Go on YouTube and look up a lot of his stuff on this subject. He has some brilliant explanations behind it.
Okay, just 1 second, inviting Sue to.
I need to plug this in real quick. Yep. So we have another one.
Yes, just Sue is coming on board to actually voice her question out to you.
Oh, okay.
So just invited her. Okay. While we wait for Sue to, oh, here we go.
I feel like I should be doing something to entertain everyone.
Yeah, that's what I thought it'd be a lot faster. Well, here we go. Adam has a question.
Okay.
And he wants to know, what's your opinion on the method of intermittent fasting with 1 or 2 large high-fat meals a day as opposed to having multiple smaller meals per day?
Really cool question. My answer not that long ago probably would have been to have smaller meals a day. Now, here's the thing about that. It's going to depend on your stage in your metabolism, your stage in your life, really, and what you're used to. What's been shown to me through my own experience and through the science is that our healing faculties are going to be generated from the act of fasting before supplements, before food, before stem cell therapy, before endogenous hormone therapy, and all this stuff that's being done out there. What ultimately all that is trying to do is to replicate the natural production that happens in our body when we're in prolonged states of fasting. Now, what I mean by that is carrying out intermittent fasting as like a 2-meal type of thing a day is a really great way to start moving towards ultimately where I think that we all want to be in our life, is where we're basically fasting throughout the whole day mostly on liquids. That's ultimately what I believe is actually the healthiest thing for most people, is that we fast on liquids through the whole day. Those liquids can be juices, they can be hot tonics with coconut oil or ghee in them for fat source, smoothies like superfood smoothie with all your nutrition in it, your protein, everything in it, blended up and liquefied, and then for the evening to have like a really good green leafy salad, and then have like a side of whatever it is, your eggs or your raw goat's cheese or your quinoa or whatever that solid meal is. That appears to me to actually be the most potent thing to turn on our genetics, to turn on our immune system or reset our immune system, and to actually make us a lot more of a clear vessel for consciousness and to keep us in strength. It actually has been shown to increase human growth hormone potentially more than anything else that's ever been shown. Definitely more than actually like sticking HGH into our body for sure. So hopefully that answers your question. It's up to your own interpretation though on how you want to go about that. I personally feel like it's an ebb and flow kind of thing. It's never going to be all the time. Nutrition's never all or nothing or all the time. It's always a riddle that you're having to decode in the flow of your life. So although I think that the fasting idea is primarily the best thing, it'll change. And if you can adjust to the change in climate in your life, then I think that's the best thing.
Okay, I think we lost Sue, but we have a question here from Gail. This would be our last question.
A lot of questions today.
Yeah. Let's see. Gail would like to hear you speak about skin repair, especially for someone whose skin has already wrinkled. And I'm imagining she wants to hear how someone whose skin has already wrinkled can have healthier skin.
Okay, well, I think the number one rule of thumb is hydration. You need to be properly hydrated, right? So, what that looks like to me is that in the morning when you start your day with 1 liter of water, preferably, or half a liter if you can't get through a liter yet, with 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt. What this will do is it'll help your body absorb, it'll help the tissue matrix of your body actually hold on to water and absorb water better. Now, depending on where you're at in your life, you may have to adjust the salt content, but ultimately that's the number one solution for this issue, is hydration, making sure that you're properly hydrated and you're not just filtering out water through your renal system or through urination, through peeing, which is where a lot of the minerals in water go, because we're not able to hold on to the sodium, hold on to the minerals that we need to create more of the hydrological cycle in our own body. Green vegetable juicing, again, saturating yourself in the blood or the life force of plants. And chlorophyll is one of the most powerful ways to do this. Green powdered superfoods is really powerful too. So having like a green drink with green powdered superfoods like chlorella, spirulina, alfalfa grass, the green grasses, that kind of thing is really powerful. And then high vitamin C containing plants like camu berry, acerola cherry, rose hips, amla berry. Those kind of things are really important for the beautification process of our skin, building back the collagen, helping to knit back torn tissue fibers, as well as being really helpful for repairing joint and cartilage issues as well. And then the enzymes, I feel like I'm just plugging that like crazy, but every issue with metabolism and with repairing skin and repairing tissue has to do with an enzyme deficit. Enzymes are really important, and high dosages of enzymes are really important for repairing back the outer surface of our skin. But you got to do them in high dosages for more of an immediate effect. We're talking about like 30 to 50 enzymes a day. And there's no LD50, by the way, on enzymes. There's no lethal dosage on enzymes. You could theoretically do as many enzymes as you want and not have a health issue, a health consequence other than maybe having like, diet, or like having a free flow in the bathroom, if you know what I mean. So that's what I have to say immediately to that. Yeah.
Okay, so I think we got Sue on board here. I'm going to let her ask her question to you live. Let me just present her here. Hey, Sue, can you hear me?
I think she's on mute.
Sue, can you unmute yourself? No audio on this one.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like Sue's audio is muted.
Okay, I'll just go ahead and ask her question from her to you.
Okay.
So let's just do that for now.
We're still working out some of the little bugs of the software that we're using to do these conference calls.
One more time. She just said give her a moment.
Okay. So hopefully everyone's having the best day ever. While we're all just kind of hanging out. And that is what I invite all of us to do, is to activate genius at every turn possible and turn on the triggers to our wellspring of inspiration.
Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and ask the question.
Okay.
1 second. Here we go. So Sue wants to know, in a plant-based diet, what is the consensus on plant-based carbs, such as potatoes and other starchy roots?
The consensus. Okay. Well, to me, there's really a middle ground to it, right? So it depends on your metabolism. Again, like we discussed during Ann's question, I think, or Shar's question, is that certain people have different metabolism. Some people run better on carbohydrates. Some people run better on fats and oils. I found for myself that I'm definitely a fast oxidizer, although I do good on carbohydrates in balance. I do really good on sweet potatoes and yams periodically. what we need to look at when it comes to starchy carbohydrates is that they're long-chain carbohydrates, and they're concentrated when you cook them or steam them, so they burn a little bit longer in the body and allow more stabilization energy-wise than like like a banana, for example, that burns up very quickly. So I think that they're great in balance. If you're the type of person that actually gets more energy and more stabilization from carbohydrates, then those could be really good for you. But I also recommend mixing them. For example, I'm thinking of green leafy vegetables, like basically having that raw vegetables with some of your cooked foods. And then what's really good to know is that you want to figure out which of those food options actually work for you specifically. So having a dinner with your salad, and then having a side of, let's say, sweet potatoes. You have like a baked sweet potato, right? And maybe you have like ghee as your butter or something, whatever you like to do. And then if that feels good for you, great. And then try switching it out with having steamed broccoli, steamed cauliflower, having quinoa, having buckwheat, something like that. Because each thing has its own benefit, and it's different for the person. So that's my answer: is that you wanna have a diversity of options available for you, because when you do the same thing over and over, you can create a tolerance with it. You can create almost like an allergenic reaction that a lot of people get when they do the same thing over and over. So hopefully that helps. I think having a diversity of things is really important.
Can I expand on that a little bit? Ronnie, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ah, finally. Okay, as you know, I'm a cancer survivor.
Right.
And I have taken all grains out of my diet and
Okay.
all sugars, and my diet is pretty ketogenic. I do eat some yams and some root vegetables sometimes, but not with great frequency because I necessarily have to keep it ketogenic. I get a lot of flack from my coaches because not only do they want me high protein, they want me to up my carbs. And I said, no, I'm not going to up my carbs. I have to keep them low. And that's where I'm not sure what to do in a plant-based diet, because that encompasses a whole lot of root vegetables, which are starchy.
Not necessarily. Really, you can do a ketogenic diet on a plant-based approach. Basically, what your options look like is avocados, olives, and then coconut products primarily. There's also like durian fruit. There's also doing like periodically like cacao or raw chocolate as well. But really what it's going to look like, those options: avocados, olives, coconut products, coconut oil, and coconut meat specifically, but then also doing more seeds. I don't really recommend everyone does like tons and tons of nuts. I like nut milks, but nuts in high volume can cause some digestive issues. But seeds like flaxseed, chia seed, and hemp seed, and then the oils of those are very, very important as well. And you can in olive oil as well as a dressing. So you can literally organize a plant-focused diet around the principles of ketogenic diets without having to get all your food from animal fat. But I also recommend too of being more of a vegetarian opposed to being full-on vegan. That's kind of my feeling long-term and sustainability-wise, especially if you are doing a ketogenic approach. Grass-fed butter and grass-fed cheese, like raw cheese, non-pasteurized cheese, can be really, really good to balance out the calories, because you're looking for calories essentially. What are the calories that are going to work for you and are not going to cause a fermentation in the body? So maybe for you, if you do too much sugar, that can cause an anaerobic fermentation, which is what cancer cells actually are. They're basically just the product of fermentation in the body and the lack of oxygen to the cells. So you want to just kind of look at that. And then I want to say this too about like this whole high protein thing. There's nothing wrong with high protein. We just have to know what the heck protein actually is. So as a culture, we are so clueless on protein. It's like I have people come to me all the time and they're like, oh, you know, I eat vegetables, I eat fruit, I eat protein, I eat this, and I'm like, wait, okay, backtrack. What do you mean by protein? They're like, oh yeah, I have lean meat and this kind of thing. I'm like, so we have a cultural idea that plants don't have protein for some reason. But like I explained before, this is a very backwards thing in our culture. So here's the point. The point about this is that what we do need to be careful about when we have a cancer or you're recovering from cancer is that animal products are anabolic. Anabolic meaning they initiate growth hormones in the body. Now, usually that's a good thing. Not that animal products have to be the thing for that, but that we have growth factors in the body hormonally. The problem with that when it comes to anything doing to deal with cancer is if you have the wrong growth hormones in excess, they will signal cancerous mutations or metastasizing cancers to anabolically grow in the body. This is what we've learned from estrogen dominance research. This is basically what's happening with estrogen-related cancers is that there's an anabolic growth, and it's just signaling growth hormones which turn into estrogen, and it just goes out of control. So I want to recommend to you, Sue, is that you also look into yam-based progesterone cream specifically for this.
I'm also on a bioidentical progesterone.
Okay, so you've already been through. You already know the deal on that.
Oh yeah, I can't live without my hormones. They really make a difference in my life. When the cancer doctors told me to get off of all hormones, and I did that, I wanted to die. I just said, you know, basically it was a kill me now kind of thing. And when I went back to my integrative doctor, you know, she said, no, you can stay. You need to stay on on all of the hormones in order to have a quality of life. And that's what it comes down to: is what you're willing to risk for your quality of life. Because
right, and
that's where I've been all of this time. And I have to say now that at this point in time, I'm probably at a 70% plant-based diet. 50% of that is, I would have to say raw. I put about a half a pound of leafy greens in my morning smoothie. It's not delicious, but I'm used to it.
No, it's awesome.
So this is what I've gotten used to in order to be able to get in approximately a pound of vegetables a day. Because I'm not a very big person and I can't eat all that much. And that was why when the big question about how somebody who is considering themselves an athlete can go on that 1 gram per pound of weight, 120 grams of protein for me is 3/4 of a pound of meat or fish. And I said, I can't eat that much in a day. And so, you know, I'm lucky to maybe get 50 to 70 grams of protein in me because of that. So I went on some whey protein. I put that in my smoothie as well, but I'm not even sure I should do that. Yeah,
this is a really important thing is that things just keep coming up for me on this. It's like when you look at the actual the structure of a cancer cell that shows up, all cancer cells have an encasement in protein surrounding them.
Mm-hmm.
This is really interesting finding is that cancer is literally being protected from the immune system by the excess accumulation of foreign proteins in the body. So, you know, we can all draw our obvious conclusions on that. This is another reason I'm just so fanatical about this whole proteolytic enzyme thing is like, I don't, it's not, it had nothing to do with me trying to sell enzyme products. It has to do with me wanting to give my voice to something that I think is like absolutely critical for all of us to be looking at, is that our immune system can only function to its peak potential, but there's certain things in the body that there's certain organisms that hide themselves from the immune system if we're not able to break down the force field, so to speak, that they're protecting themselves from. A lot of that sounds like fantasy or like I don't know, mythology or something like sci-fi, but like, look, we live in a biological universe. Like, our body is crazy how it works, and there are organisms in our body that are intelligent enough to create literally fortresses around themselves, so our immune system cannot get to it. And that's one of the purposes of protein-specific enzymes, is to break down, to neutralize that force field, and then our immune system can get in and start actually getting a handle on the situation. So I think I bring that up too, is because if you look at all the alternative, like the really alternative, holistic, and effective cancer treatment centers out there, they all use high dosages of enzymes. Like, I'm talking about, like, you can look up right now Dr. Nick Gonzalez, and he's one of the most successful doctors when it comes to like hormone treatment and also reversing cancer naturally. He has his cancer patients, on anywhere from like 70 to 120 enzymes every day. So I'm just putting that out there. You guys, everyone that's listening, please do your own research, but I just want to put that out there. And then the last point I wanted to make in reference to the protein thing, I don't know if I totally answered this during your last question, but we're not designed to be taking that much protein in. Like, when you look at a piece of meat, it's muscle tissue, it's ligaments, it's tendons, it's fibrous animal material. Like, so whatever we think is protein is like, there's all that stuff going on with it. Our body literally is not designed to take on that much dense material, right? So if you are going to do meat, then do it as a condiment. Do it as a condiment opposed to being the main course. That is that is the most like open-minded and like middle path perspective I have on that, opposed to like, no, you can't have meat, because I don't know if that's really the right way. I just feel like what we've done as a society is definitely not. So I feel like that makes more sense. And then when it comes to protein, you ask, like, how does a plant-based athlete, actually get enough protein? I'm 165 pounds. I'm mostly muscle, and that's mostly like, if I feel my body, it's pretty much like just kind of one big like muscle suit. I don't have a whole lot of excess on me, but I'm very functional and I'm very efficient and I'm very strong for my body weight, and I recover very quickly. I may only get 30 to 50 grams of protein in my body a day. I mean, it might be a little more depending on the day, but really, if I'm actually paying attention, it's probably like that. And that's because I'm absorbing more of the protein. And whey protein, it doesn't seem to be all that effective for most people, really. What you really want is hemp-based protein. That's the most absorbable plant-based protein powder. And that's how I do it. That's how I get it all into the body. And that appears to work for me, and that appears to work for most plant-based athletes and bodybuilders in general.
Okay, I'll take a look into that, because I don't feel good eating large quantities of meat. I have moved my diet so that it was far more plant-based, and I have taken the position of just using meat as kind of a condiment. And when I suddenly have to turn around and start shoveling meat inside of me, I said, you know, I'm probably going to get fat eating all of that. Maybe that's not what I'm intending to do. I don't want to bulk out. All I want to do is to be nice and small and fit because I'm a small person. And so that it just hasn't been resonating with me. And that was why when this webinar came up, I thought, well, this is a perfect time to ask you that because I know that you're an athlete. And I know you're plant-based, and so it makes sense to find out what it is that you're doing right that I could maybe incorporate into my particular situation.
Yep. The last thing on that note, I appreciate that, and yeah, I think what shows up for me is one superfood smoothie a day. I'd recommend that you put in let's just say anywhere from 15 to 20 grams of hemp protein into your smoothie every day, and then monitor how you feel every day and notice your blood sugar balance out, notice your energy stabilize, and feel it out that way. Also, I recommend in that smoothie having like soaked chia seeds, putting in like maybe coconut water, putting in.
I do both of those.
Yeah, and you're probably doing a lot of this stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the powders, and I'm actually wondering if I could put the spirulina in it.
Totally. Yeah, you totally can do that. It's totally possible. You'll play with the flavors.
You had mentioned just having a glass of coconut water with it, and I could do that too. I'm trying to get away from supplementation because I take probably upwards of 30 or 40 supplements a day, and it's seriously gotten old. And so I'm trying. I can't even begin to explain how tiring it is to eat a mountain of pills, and so. Well, it is. I can't even get through all of them in a day sometimes. I throw some of them in my next morning smoothie. And so I'm trying to make it a whole lot more efficient to supplement if I have to. And a lot of that is my mushrooms. I do take a lot of mushrooms, and probably a good dozen of those are the mushroom pills because I take 3 different kinds. And so that's one of the deals. But even still, I don't want to take all those gel caps either, so I just open them out and put them in the smoothie, and to make that more efficient for me, and I think that I metabolize it better when it's in the smoothie as opposed to in pill form. Right. Other things, so I do notice a difference on some of that. So if I can take everything all at one time, I'm a happy camper. If I have to break it up into different times during the day, this before food, this after food, then I start having to think about what I'm eating when, and that's problematic too because we all have busy lifestyles, and it's if I can just throw it all together at one time, and then I know I'm at lunch I'm going to have a big salad and whatnot, then I'm good to go because I can do that on a daily basis.
Yeah, it sounds like you've worked out so much of it for yourself. So, yeah, I think you're right on the right path. And then, minimizing all the supplements, getting more towards food first, always. Yeah, I think you're right on schedule.
Oh, well, thank you. It's nice to be validated on some of this. I'm actually surprised to find that I've already been doing a lot of the things you mentioned.
Yeah,
so I eat an avocado a day, wherever I can find one.
Yeah, and then putting a little salt on that avocado, you might find also with cucumbers, it's a good way to stabilize as well. Salt's a big issue on that as well for the adrenal glands. Your adrenals run on sodium and salt, so we need to have that in the picture as well.
Right. I do put salt on the avocado. It just gives it a little boost, and and then all the coconut products. I have a whole 25-pound tub of coconut oil. I go through the stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, and I keep a lot of coconut water on hand as well because I throw that in the smoothie every day. But I'm going to thank you for all of this. and especially for letting me rant on for a little while myself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think, well, it seems like a lot of people, or probably, I think a lot of people are getting value out of having someone besides me come on and share their experience and have that interaction. And that's a cool thing about these webinars. We'll try to have at least one person every time be able to come on live video and have these dialogues. So, thanks, Sue.
Okay, great. I'm sorry I missed the last one. It's been really hectic around here, so I was glad that you were going to recap some of the same things.
Totally, yeah. We wanted to do that for everyone, so.
Okay, well, I'm going to pop off now. I have to raise some children. If it's quiet around here, I need to wake them up, I think.
You better get to raise.
You better get to raise.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you so much, and I'll look forward to the next one.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, everyone. Well, maybe we can answer like one more question before we hop off. We're about 30 minutes over, but
yeah.
you guys are so engaged.
We got one question right here from Mindy. Is there an age for women for which bioidentical hormones are no longer appropriate, or should you take them for life? How do you know what ones to take? Progesterone, testosterone, estrogen, and how much?
Well, I got to be honest, that's which and how much and for how long. I'm not a naturopath. I'm not a bioidentical hormone doctor or anything like that. So I'm just generally speaking on the validity of natural-based hormone therapy. Ultimately, here's what I want to say is that going towards food first that helps your body manufacture your natural hormones is absolutely key. So doing things like pine pollen tincture, doing things like tongkat ali, which is the Chinese herb, things like ginseng, doing things like maca root, doing things like cacao is also hormonal as well. What else is coming up for me? Tribulus from the Ayurvedic system is really important. And then sweet potatoes, yams, food that help our body signal a progesterogenic effect, meaning our body to help produce progesterone or a testosterogenic effect as well. And then once you go towards food, you've done that whole piece, then you have to research it and ideally talk to someone who's more of a specialist or a naturopathic specialist on this subject, but make sure that that person has a natural food perspective and is not trying to just dose you up with a bunch of supplements that you may or may not actually need to take. So do I think that they're important for everyone at all ages? Beyond the ages of like youth or teenage years, depending on the situation, yes. For women that are 40 and above, do I think you need it? I'm not going to say that. That's not appropriate, but are they beneficial for most people in our situation? Absolutely. Do most people find benefit from it? Absolutely. And then also on the hormone piece, quarterly detoxification is going to help recycle out all the xenoestrogens that are causing a lot of the estrogen problems to begin with. So again, it's a naturalistic and holistic approach. And do I think someone needs to be on it for life? Realistically, probably not. But again, everyone's different, so I can't make that call. You have to be your own investigator on that.
So guys, we're at the end of our 7 Steps to Invincible Health webinar and Q&A with raw foods and peak performance expert Ronnie Landis. If you really enjoy this, we're going to be sending a live replay out to you all. If you really like the information and want to take a deeper dive in, everything can be found in much more depth and detail and personalization through the Holistic Health Mastery course, which I'll load the offer just one more time so you can take a look at. There's a massive offer that Ronnie's offering for only today through the webinar. So just something to take a look at with the Inner Circle offer. Hope you guys all had a wonderful time here and got some great value to increase the quality of your life. And we'll keep you in the loop for further webinars. We got a plan to have a really cool series coming up.
Yeah.
And we're going to be bringing in some really cool guests for that. So
Real quick for everyone watching, this year I'm super stoked about this. I know all of you will be too. Adam, do you want to tell them just like a quick little teaser about kind of what we're thinking about with this?
Yeah, so we're thinking about doing a series for basically living outstanding quality of life and outstanding quality of health. One of the things we want to bring in here is a whole webinar on chocolate. I mean, who loves chocolate? First of all, we want to bring someone who's actually like how would you describe Steve?
Steve Adler is the literal embodiment or personification of the archetype of Willy Wonka.
There we go. We're gonna bring the Willy Wonka, the healthy Willy Wonka. I mean, we're talking about raw chocolate here, raw cacao, real stuff, the great quality stuff, and bring him in here, and basically have him share his wisdom, experience, and chocolate with us all.
Yeah, and his spirit, his inspiration and experience on it. I haven't even asked him about it, but we'll get him on. He's a very dear friend of mine, so we'll easily get him on. He's the founder of Sacred Chocolate, so he is a wealth of knowledge, and we'll be sharing some really cool stuff. After that, I want to bring on my good friend Beth Ann Wanamaker, who's another chocolatier from a female perspective. So that's an idea of what we're going to do, and then we're going to do a lot of video series that are, or webinar series that are more focused, more specific, and like series like part 1 and part 2, so we can really just dive into some really awesome territory for you guys.
Yes, it's going to be like an in-depth, intensive, and personalized, because there's going to be Q&A at the end of everyone, like you saw. And we're going to invite people to come up and speak. Just mastery course for life. And that being said, we look forward to seeing you all next time. And we'll keep you in the loop for this next series. We're going with our... what about Sky Cubby, says Gail.
What's that? Sky Cubby?
Yes.
Yeah, throw him on.
Yeah, let's put Sky on too. Yeah, cacao. Awesome. Thank you everyone for showing up.
Yeah, no, wait, let me, wait, did Gail just mention bringing Sky on? Yeah. Is that what happened? Oh, okay, I thought Sky was on. Sky is another good friend. Yeah, great, awesome. We'll make a third one with Sky. How about that?
Yes, definitely. Okay, guys. Showing up. Thank you so much for participating. Can't wait to see you next time.
Yay. Aloha.